What's up YouTube? It is ArielR32 here, bringing you guys a video about me discussing Sixth Sense. Yes, that is right, Sixth Sense. I am about over a week late or so at the time of making this video, on the 13th of October, so yeah, we can say about just over a week or so, because I probably won't even upload this till maybe even the 14th or 15th of October. Besides the point, either way, I'm late, I realize this and I'm sorry, but I just got done reading this article from Jason Grabermeyer about Sixth Sense and why calling 5 and 6 is wrong. Not only am I going to be discussing that in this video, I'm also going to be discussing why Sixth Sense is really, really, really bad. Yes, you heard me right, it is bad. And before you start hating on me in the comments saying, Avery, you're an idiot, this and that, and this and that, and whatever, you know, everything under the sun, um, hear me out, you guys. Just trust me. Don't dislike the video yet. Don't leave a bad comment. Just hear me out and listen to my discussion. So, let's start off I'm going to start off with the article first. Why calling 5 and 6 is wrong. Essentially, I just got done reading the article just now, actually, and Jason Grabermeyer was essentially saying how a bunch of pro players are saying like how calling 5 or 6 can potentially be wrong. But he was also talking in the perspective of if you're running something that can really abuse Sixth Sense, like say Dragon Rulers or Dragunity Rulers. If you're running one of those decks, then this is kind of where you need to like listen up, so to speak. If you're not really running the deck, then you can pretty much just call 5 or 6 and just spin the wheel and hope to God that you hit 5 or 6. But if you're running something like Dragon Rulers or Dragunity Rulers, then you might want to listen up. So the reason why calling 5 and 6 is wrong, I'm going to probably be referring to this every now and again just for notes because I do like what Jason Grabermeyer said in this article. So I did actually find out from this article that Sixth Sense is a common out of a 298 card set. Yippee. You still only pull like one per case. But the reason why calling 5 and 6 is bad is because 66% of the time, I believe he said, he said that, he says here, but calling 3 and 4, at least in strategies like Dragon Rulers, is the only way to get that chance to auto-win 66% of the time instead of 33% of the time. And then he also goes on to say how the mitigator is 1 and 2, the middle ground is 3 and 4, and then he goes on to, like, I guess you could say kind of explain how to use it, but I like what he says here. If you call 3 and 4, then in that case you expect to win off milling 5 or 6. You also expect to win if you draw 3 or 4, making a straight +2 or +3. You expect to win there because off the draw, all your spells and traps are still valuable hits, and that much card advantage is likely to win you the game. Think back to last format. How often did you see someone draw 3 or 4 cards off of Super Juve and win because of it? The answer is all the time. You know for a fact how this generally plays out. It's even better in a format where your opponent has a lower chance of turning around doing the same thing back to you. And if you roll a 1 or 2, well, you'll probably get shafted, but you stand a very good chance of winning the other 66% of the time because you've maximized the impact of the other 4 results, and no other option does that. Call 5 and 6, and you virtually guarantee victory in 1 of 3 activations. So I do see what he's saying, how if you call 5 and 6, and you're running Dragon Rulers or Dragunity Rulers especially, and you draw those 5 or 6 cards, you're guaranteed to win, of course. And if you decide to call 1 or 2 or 3 and 4, typically the conservative player is going to call 3 or 4 because then you're only going to mill like a 1 or 2, 5 or a 6. And it's a lower percentage. It's like a 1/3 percentage or something like that. It's like percentage and numbers. I'm not good with that. But in the case of running Dragon Rulers and Dragunity Rulers, it really depends on the situation, of course. Like, I do like how he said that you can set the Sixth Sense and have it as like a bluff defensive card, and then your opponent goes to MST it, and you can just chain it, especially if you're low on cards in your hand, just call 5 and 6 and, you know, rip the 5 or the 6, and then even if you don't, mill either 1, 2, 3, or 4 cards. Hopefully not just one card, because out of 12 Dragon Ruler elements, you may mill one card that's dead to you, like a Return, or the Swift Scarecrow, or an element of a Dragon Ruler that's just not helpful to you. So now that I kind of discussed that, I'm going to leave the link in the description of the article so that you can go and read it, but it kind of goes more in depth of what I'm talking about. But I want to discuss more my opinion on Sixth Sense and why I think it's just a bad card. So you declare two numbers from 1 to 6. We've already established that. Then your opponent rolls a six-sided die, and if the result is one of the numbers you declared, you draw that many cards. Otherwise, send a number of the cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to the result. So your opponent has to roll the dice. Let's say you're going against a stacker, and they stack the dice, and then they roll you a 1. Well, then you got to mill one card. That's one bad side. Are you going to see that a lot? I do not know, but it can happen. Like my friend at the Kissimmee Regional October 5th was teaching me how you can like flip the dice in a certain way, and it will land on either mostly a 5 or a 6, maybe sometimes a 4, guaranteed. Like, you will typically never roll a 1, 2, or a 3. But because you're not rolling the dice, it doesn't really help you in that favor. Your opponent has to roll the dice. Keep that in mind when you're playing the card. It says your opponent rolls a six-sided die for you. Another reason why it's bad, at least this is just my opinion, another reason why I think is bad is with the milling aspect, of course. Me personally, I talked about this in my Dragon Ruler deck profile when I was talking about Card Trooper. I milled crap almost all day. Like, the only time that I can honestly say I milled well, or at least decently well, was when I was going against Madolche in round 9, in the very last round, when I played Card Trooper and I milled, like, a Blaster, a Scapegoat, and a Title, and I already had Title in my grave. So I was sitting with 2 Titles in my grave, and a Blaster in grave, and a Scapegoat. Yeah, that helps me a lot. Thank you, Card Trooper. So that's just one of the things. The milling aspect can either kill you or hurt you. And even Jason Grabenmeyer said in the Sixth Sense article on Core TCG, he said it does hurt to mill your return. And I agree with that all damn day, because everybody knows, everybody and their mother knows, everybody and their grandmother knows, Return from the Different Dimension is a sacky card, and it will win you the game 99% of the time. And then if they negate it or something, then you're sitting there crying your eyes out. But it's the milling aspect. Like, you either just go ham with what you mill, in the perspective of if you're running Dragon Rulers or Dragunity Rulers, or you mill absolute crap and you're just dead sea salty and just trying to think to yourself, why in God's name did I decide to run Sixth Sense? And it all depends on what you call, of course. I mean, you know, the article proves it there, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, or whatever. But it's just that milling aspect, you guys. Like, that's one of the big reasons. And on top of that, it's like your opponent can, you know, they can MST it. Yes, you can chain to it, but then if you already set it as a bluff, then whenever you go to chain to it, if you have too many cards in your hand, like if you're already sitting with 4 cards in your hand, you set that Sixth Sense and you call 5 or 6, and you end up drawing that many cards, you're going to have to pitch them in the end phase. Whether they're Dragon Rulers or not, you don't want to have to pitch a lot of cards. You want to have all those resources in your hand. Like, we Dragon players love having a bunch of cards in our hand. So, I mean, go ahead and set it as a defensive bluff if you want. I do see where that is a good play. But it's like, if you end up doing that early game and your opponent MSTs it and you're sitting with 5 cards in your hand, then you're like, wow, I actually kind of hope I mill, but at the same time, I don't want to mill bad. Like, I don't know, you guys. Like, I just kind of see it as a, it's okay. And on top of that, it's only at 1. It's not at 3. So it's like, how does this help me in any way? And really, everybody's saying, oh, this can be ran in any deck. Not really. I mean, if Exodia is going to run it, then they have to run Dark Eruption. And most likely they're going to run 3 copies of Dark Eruption, and then when they play Sixth Sense and they call 5 or 6 and they end up milling their Dark Eruptions, and with Exodia pieces they also mill those, it's like, really? Okay. Chamberlain can't run it. They sure as hell can't run it because they can't take the risk of losing their cards. Take this from someone that goes against Chamberlain every single day of the week for the past 2.5 years. My dad. You know that we both play together. My dad's been running Chamberlain for 2.5 years straight. Like, nothing else. Yeah, he'll play other decks, you know, just like test around with them on like DevPro or whatever, but he sticks with Chamberlain for the past 2.5 years. And he will tell you straight up, Sixth Sense is bad in Chamberlain. It just is. It doesn't matter if you get to draw 5 or 6 cards. Yes, you can chain Sixth Sense to your other chainable cards, and it creates a chain. I get that, but it does not matter because you're still having to mill cards if you do not hit that 5 or 6. And you're mostly going to have to call 5 or 6 with in Chamberlain. Like, that's really all you can call because you can't afford to go the mitigator play by calling 1 and 2, and you can't go the middle ground play by calling 3 and 4 because then you have the then you run the possibility of milling 5 or even 6 cards, and Chamberlain cannot do that. They need all their cards in their hand or in the deck. They cannot afford to mill in any way, shape, or form, whether it be 1 card, 3 cards, 5 cards, 10 cards, however many cards. They cannot afford to mill. It's bad juju all around. um, Really, the only decks, and plus, on top of that, the only decks I see running this, Chaos Dragons, which are irrelevant, so you can't even count them in this discussion. Dragon Rulers, of course, and Dragoonity Rulers, because they really don't care about milling. But at the same time, if they end up milling all of their boss-ass cards, like Return from the Different Dimension, or cards to protect them, like, say, Scapegoat, Swift Scarecrow, or their Dragon Ravines, when they haven't even played Dragon Ravines yet, then it's like, blah, the terrible mills are terrible. And yes, you also get the good mills, like, I wouldn't say it's 50-50 even on whether you get a good mill or a bad mill. It's all about luck and how your deck is. If your opponent stacked it, then however your deck is stacked, or just whatever. So, I mean, we're not all Joey Wheelers. We're not all gonna hit those amazing luck-based cards. Like, if we were all Joey Wheelers, then we would all be running friggin' Fairy Box and like hitting those all day, and then everybody be going in time because of Fairy Box, and then everybody be running Graceful Dice and Skull Dice and crap, and it's just like, what? So yeah, you guys, that's it for this discussion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Personally, I still think it's an okay card. I just don't think it's a flat-out amazing card like everybody's giving it credit for. Like, everyone's like, oh my god, Sixth Sense just ruined the format. Sixth Sense did not ruin this damn format. Quit complaining. That's just people who are PO'd at Dragon Rulers and are tired of seeing them top, and now they think that this format's just going to be busted open even more with Dragon Rulers because now they have one Sixth Sense. It's one, you guys. One Sixth Sense. And if they set it and you end phase MST them, they just lost their Sixth Sense. Their one Sixth Sense. It's at 1. Stressing that for a reason. It's at 1. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to rate, comment, most importantly, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great day. Goodbye.